Hi everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing Headscarves and Hymens, Why the Middle East Needs a Sexual Revolution by Mona Eltahawy. This is feminist literature spanning 7 chapters about the patriarchy, sexual violence, as well as feminist work in the Middle East, as well as North Africa. I first came across Mona Eltahawy in Q&A ABC Australia, where she was a part of a panel and she spoke about rape culture and had this hypothetical answer of what if women and girls started killing their rapists. Instead of people reflecting about the fact that most of our societies uphold rape culture, they were angry at the suggestion that people not take their oppression silently anymore. And I really appreciated Mona Eltahawy's rage and urgency. And one of my reading missions for this year is to read work from Central Africa, East Africa, as well as North Africa, and the Middle East then was an added bonus to this. In this book, Mona Eltahawy discusses a range of subjects such as sexual harassment in Egypt and how it's used to keep women out of the public space. She then goes on to talk about modes of dressing and how they are used to uphold purity culture, where she makes the connection of the compulsory wearing of the hijab and the niqab as being used to enforce purity culture. But at the same time, she speaks about how purity culture then burdens women and girls, where they are told that they are responsible for their safety, and she dismantles this idea then that wearing the hijab or the niqab protects women from any violence, because she shows that even when they are wearing even when they are in the hijabs or niqabs, they are still being sexually violated. And then in terms of the hijab and the niqab, she also speaks about the question of choice when wearing the hijab and the niqab outside of the Western gaze, since it is compulsory in most of the regions that she's speaking about. And then in one of the last chapters, she speaks about the idea of the private space and dismantles this idea that women belong in the private space, where she shows that what happens in the private space is that women are domestically abused as well as raped, and she advocates for the free movement of women and girls, and that they should belong in both the private and the public space without any violence being enacted on their bodies. I was extremely excited for this book, and I was left quite disappointed. I thought that it was clumsily written and that Mona Eltahawy's thoughts were very much scattered, and I was frustrated by the lack of context as well as history. And I'm not saying that there isn't any history in this book, because she does reference the misogynists as well as the feminists before her time. However, the way that it was structured, the arguments were structured, didn't give me much to actually imagine. And I thought that it could have done with more history, as I said, and as well as more structure, as well as more editing, in fact. And at times I would be so frustrated by the incoherent thoughts and the repetitive arguments, because in one of the earlier chapters, when she speaks about purity culture, she speaks about how she was introduced to this term by feminists from the United States, and then she repeats this again in another chapter, and I was like, where was the editing for this? I thought that the chapters were also long, and I think I would have appreciated the chapters being that long if I was getting new ideas and something different, because as much as I understand that misogyny isn't unique in whatever regions, and that it is the standards for all of our societies, and I'm not trying to downplay the misogyny happening in North Africa as well as the Middle East at all, but I was just looking at this and I'm saying that I feel like Mona Eltahawy is trying to argue that, look, things are this bad in the Middle East, and I can see how bad they are, but I was also at the same time, I was like, there's no difference. Even if they are using in the Middle East as well as North Africa state-sanctioned misogyny, that's still happening in countries that are circular. So what are you trying to show me? And I didn't get any of that. I didn't get what I wanted. And I hope that in her latest book, the writing has improved, her arguments have improved, because I was, as I said, disappointed by this. So I gave this 2 stars out of 5. Other than that, I will see you next time. Goodbye.